Hooters failed to recall employees after a COVID-motivated layoff because they had dark skin tones. It happened multiple times at multiple Hooters. I don't know what is going on over at Hooters.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Let's talk about what bosses were up to. Earlier in the show, we talked about what workers were up to. Let's talk about what bosses were up to in the South last week, and it is never good. We do this segment because bosses, we think, get off way too easy. They have, every night you're going to see a parade of mugshots on the local news about people doing robbery, petty theft, trespassing, stuff like that. And you never hear about the bosses who steal billions of dollars from working people, who sexually harass us, who discriminate against us, who are responsible for our deaths in the workplace. Never hear about that, but here you do. So let's go ahead and start off in Louisiana, where the U.S. Department of Labor has obtained a consent judgment requiring the operator of a New Orleans area home health care agency to pay 80 workers a total of $630,000 in back wages and damages after the employer misclassified them as independent contractors. The judgment against Parish's Supportive Living Incorporated and owner Belinda Vining Trepanier follows an investigation by the department's Wage and Hour Division that found the employer's misclassification denied overtime pay and other benefits to employees assigned to the agency's location in Medier and Hammond, in violation of the Fair Labor Standards Act. The division's review of the employer's pay practices from December 2019 to December 2022 found that Parish's Supportive Living willfully failed to pay overtime wages for hours after 40 in a work week as required by law. In addition to payment of back wages and damages, the employers must retain an independent third-party auditor to review the company's payroll and pay practices for a 3-year period and prepare status reports on the employer's ongoing FLSA compliance. Staying in Louisiana, Hooters of Louisiana and associated companies have agreed to pay former black employees $650,000 to settle a race and retaliation lawsuit brought by the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the agency announced last week. According to the EEOC's lawsuit, Hooters subjected African American employees at a Metairie located Hooters restaurant to a workplace environment of offensive and demeaning remarks based on their race since at least 2017. Hooters also did not rehire any of the restaurant's African American employees after laying off staff in 2020 at the outset of the pandemic. Instead, according to the lawsuit, Hooters initially restaffed the restaurant solely with non-black employees, and several of the laid-off African American employees complained about the offensive racial remarks and hiring practices, but none of the African American employees were rehired despite their qualifications. Under the 3-year consent decree, Hooters will pay the former employees $650,000 in back pay and damages. Hooters will also conduct training, revise policies, provide regular reports to the EEOC, and post a notice affirming its obligations under Title VII. Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate. In North Carolina, but staying with Hooters, Hooters of America, a Georgia corporation, violated federal law when it failed to recall employees after a COVID-motivated layoff because they were black and or had dark skin tones. The U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission alleged in a lawsuit it filed last week. I had to reread this a few times because it's exactly the same thing. This is just happening in a different state. I had to make sure, as I was like, is this not the same story? But it's not the same. It's not the same story. It happened multiple times at multiple Hooters. I don't know what is going on over at Hooters, but it is not good. In March of 2020, the Greensboro Hooters restaurant laid off approximately 43 employees in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The EEOC's lawsuit alleges that a class of employees who were black and or had dark skin tones and worked as Hooters girls at the Greensboro restaurant were among those laid off. When the restaurant began recalling employees to return to work in May of 2020, the restaurant recalled mostly employees who were white or had light skin tones, the EEOC said. Of the 13 Hooters girls recalled to the Greensboro location in May of 2020, 12 of the 13 were white and or had light skin tones, reflecting a marked shift in the racial composition of the restaurant's Hooters girls workforce. Prior to the layoffs, 51% of the Hooters girls were black and or had dark skin tones. After the May 2020 recall, only 8 were black and or had dark skin tones. According to the complaint, Hooters girls with dark skin tones experienced racial hostility and observed preferential treatment of white employees while employed at the restaurant. Such conduct obviously violates Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which protects individuals from workplace discrimination and harassment. The EEOC filed suit in U.S. District Court after first attempting to reach a pre-litigation settlement through its voluntary conciliation process. The EEOC is seeking monetary relief for the employees, including back pay and compensatory and punitive damages. The EEOC also seeks injunctive relief against the company to end any ongoing discrimination and to prevent such unlawful conduct in the future. Several dishonorable mentions this week. Employment and Training Centers Incorporated in Houston, Texas, violated federal law by refusing to provide a reasonable accommodation for an individual applying for a data entry position. The EEOC charged in a lawsuit the University of Texas Permian Basin has agreed to pay $46,000 in damages and to furnish other relief in order to settle a pay discrimination lawsuit filed by the EEOC. TNT Crane and Rigging Incorporated violated federal law by subjecting 4 black employees to race-based discrimination and harassment. The EEOC charged in a lawsuit filed in court last week. The EEOC also charged the company with retaliating against a white employee for raising allegations of race-based discrimination at its Fort Worth, Texas branch. And to wrap up Boss Watch this week, despite the news that we bring you every week about bosses breaking the law, coming primarily from government agencies, most of the way that we do this research is we check out the Department of Labor, the EEOC, the EPA, OSHA, organizations like that for their press releases and see what they came out with in the last week. And so, you might imagine by virtue of that, these organizations are doing a lot and it's all getting caught, and that's not the case, obviously. A lot of these incidences go unreported. A lot of incidences of wage theft, discrimination, retaliation, unsafe working conditions, it all goes unreported a lot of the time. And that's true, and that's why unionization is so important. Obviously, the raises and benefits are a big plus, but safety matters a lot, and you don't get to take advantage of the big, juicy raises if you're dead. So that's why unions focus so much on safety and why union work sites are, in fact, safer. There's been study after study showing that union work sites have less injuries, they have less fatal injuries, etc. And a new piece of evidence in this vein of in this topic came out last week in Health Affairs, where researchers from George Washington University showed that unionized nursing homes were, get this, 78% more likely to be in compliance with OSHA reporting standards. Okay, so that's huge. And if you're a longtime listener of the show, you'll also remember that back at the beginning of the pandemic, studies came out showing that union nursing homes had 40% fewer COVID fatalities than non-union nursing homes. So just another piece of evidence in the vein of union workplaces are safer. And that's very, very important. Very important to have a safe workplace because, like I said, can't take advantage of the pay increases if you are dead. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.